The wind moved differently in the mountains of eastern Afghanistan. It carried dust and the scent of pine from the higher altitudes, but on the night of December 8, 2012, it carried something else: the sound of men moving. They came on foot, a column of shadows navigating a moonlit trail that snaked through the rugged terrain of Laghman Province. These were the assaulters of SEAL Team 6, the same unit that had hunted Osama bin Laden the year before, and they were on a clock. Somewhere ahead, in a mud-walled compound clinging to the side of a cliff, an American doctor named Dilip Joseph was running out of time. Dr. Joseph had been kidnapped 3 days earlier along with his Afghan interpreter and driver. Intelligence suggested that if they didn't move within the next 24 hours, the hostage would be transferred deeper into the tribal Badlands or, worse, executed. The rescue force had launched from a forward operating base hours earlier, conducting a hard routine infiltration that meant hiking silently for nearly 4 hours across unimproved trails that clawed up the mountainside. The men were loaded down with body armor, ammunition, and the heavy responsibility of bringing one of their own home. Among them was Senior Chief Special Warfare Operator Edward Byers, a taciturn man from Grand Rapids, Ohio, who had already spent years operating in the shadows. Byers was a Special Operations combat medic, a quiet professional who had deployed 11 times and was used to the violence of contact. As the team closed to within 25 meters of the target building, the world exploded. An alert guard spotted the assaulters. The forwardmost member of the team raised his weapon and fired, dropping the sentry, but the damage was done. The guard crumpled, but as he fell, he screamed a warning into the compound. Inside the single-room building, the remaining kidnappers scrambled for their AK-47s, and the lead assaulter sprinted for the door, but the entrance was sealed by 6 layers of heavy blankets, fastened to the ceiling and walls to keep out the cold and, ironically, the sound. Byers, acting as the primary breacher, slammed into the doorway and began ripping the blankets down, exposing his entire body to whatever was waiting inside. Before he could clear the path, the first assaulter pushed through the gap and was immediately met by a muzzle flash and the deafening crack of an AK-47. The round struck him, and he fell backward, mortally wounded. There was no time to hesitate. Byers knew the room was a kill box, but he also knew the man behind him needed the path cleared. He lunged through the blankets, his night vision goggles painting the scene in an eerie green glow. The room was chaos. An enemy guard was bringing his rifle to bear, aiming directly at Byers. Without thinking, the SEAL fired, dropping the threat. But as he turned, another figure darted across his peripheral vision, heading for a corner where a weapon lay propped against the wall. Byers launched himself at the unknown male, tackling him to the ground in a violent collision of bodies. They hit the dirt floor hard, and Byers immediately went to work, pinning the man with one hand while trying to adjust his night vision goggles, which had been knocked askew in the impact. His fingers worked the focus ring as he wrestled the captive, and his mind racing to identify the threat. Friend or foe, hostage or enemy. The moment his optics cleared, he saw the man's face. It was not Dr. Joseph. It was an armed guard. Byers engaged him, eliminating the threat. Gunfire still cracked through the confined space, the sound deafening and disorienting. Across the room, other team members were shouting for the hostage to identify himself. "Joseph! Dr. Joseph! Sound off!" Through the ringing in his ears, Byers heard a faint voice, speaking English, replying to the calls. It came from his right. Without a second thought, Byers moved. He didn't run. He leaped, throwing his body across the room and landing on top of the American hostage. He shielded Dr. Joseph with his own frame, using his body as a human shield against the rounds that were still ricocheting off the mud walls. As he lay across the doctor, Byers realized they were not alone. Directly behind Joseph, pressed against the wall, was another enemy fighter. and the man was reaching for a weapon, trying to flank the assault team. Byers couldn't risk firing. The rounds might pass through the enemy and hit the hostage. So he did something instinctual. He reached out and grabbed the fighter by the throat, pinning him to the wall. He held the man there, immobile, his grip like iron, until a teammate maneuvered into position and placed 2 precision shots, eliminating the final threat. The shooting stopped. And in black masks, Americans, and struggled in black masks, Americans, and struggled to compute what had just happened. He was safe. Outside, the team quickly formed a perimeter, but the cost was already known. The first assaulter, the man who had pushed through the door, was dead. His name was kept classified for years, just known only as a hero who gave his life to save another. As the helicopters thundered in to extract the team, Byers, the medic, refused to leave his fallen teammate behind. He performed CPR on the wounded assaulter for the entire 40-minute flight to Bagram Airfield. He worked tirelessly, hoping for a miracle, but the wound was fatal. The man was declared dead upon arrival. It was a devastating loss, but the mission was a success. Dr. Dilip Joseph was going home. For his actions that night, for leaping on a hostage and fighting hand-to-hand in the dark, Edward Byers was awarded the Medal of Honor. He became the first living Navy SEAL in nearly 40 years to receive the nation's highest military honor. At the White House ceremony, President Barack Obama described him as the consummate, quiet professional. But Byers, ever the SEAL, refused to accept the medal for himself alone. In his statement after the ceremony, he spoke of the man who didn't make it back. "He was an American hero, and he was the hero of that operation," Byers said quietly. "He died a warrior. He died to bring back another American.